Hey guys, welcome back to more family drama stories. In this video, my horrible parents forced me to get married to my best friend and I honestly don't know what to do. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one starts like this. So I grew up living in Afghanistan and when I was a kid, I remember always being told to play with this one boy by my parents. It was strange because usually we were told to only play with kids of the same gender, but I was always told to go and play with him. And for this story, I will call him Ali. Ali and I basically grew up together, but when we got to about age 10, we hit that point of not liking to play with the opposite gender and kind of separated a little bit. I still saw him a lot growing up as my parents invited his family to many events and I didn't know why for years. Arranged marriages were not uncommon here, but my parents never really spoke about it one way or another. Usually, kids were told at a young age to act good so their parents could find them a suitable husband or wife. Even when I was an older teenager and started looking at boys, my parents never said anything one way or another. Things are more progressive in modern days, so dating was a thing. And I went on dates with some boys as well. They were probably a lot more G-rated than in other countries, but again, I got told nothing by my parents. And then when I turned 19 years old, it was like a switch went off and they started talking about me getting married and having a big wedding. I was dating a guy at the time, but only for a couple dates, so I was confused why they thought I was gonna marry him. Finally though, I went to speak to my parents and I asked them to please explain to me what they were talking about in regards to the wedding. Finally, they told me that I was gonna marry Ali and I was shocked. I told them that I didn't want an arranged marriage and wanted to pick out a husband for myself to fall in love naturally. Suddenly though, everything was making sense to me. They'd been pushing us together because they decided that we would marry but would not tell either of us. He had a girlfriend at the time too and was probably being told the same thing as me around this time, to stop seeing anybody else and get ready for marriage. The thing is, all the pushing from childhood did not make us fall in love or want to be together. In fact, it made us feel like siblings or cousins and took each other off the table as a potential match in our minds. My parents were very strict about it and told me that I was gonna marry him even if I didn't like it. They could not legally force me to marry him, but they could basically disown me from the family and shun me if I refused to do so. I was conflicted and thought Ali would be in agreement with me, but it turns out he already knew and was ready to make me his wife. He was already talking about me having his kids and that he might still see the girl he was currently with and take her as a potential unofficial second wife. I felt very uncomfortable and to make things worse, my parents moved my things out and into a place with Ali. He was constantly making me feel uncomfortable at this point and I knew that I only had one option and it was to just leave. Not to just leave the house and try to go back to my parents either, their position was clear, so if I left I would need to go far. I did just that with the money I had saved up and bought a one-way ticket to India. I knew I could find somewhere cheap to live there and it would be much easier than trying to get into one of the English-speaking countries. I got there without much money left and zero connections to my family. I did not tell any of them where I went and I basically became a ghost as far as they knew. I did not make any online identity so they could track me down and drag me back to get married. The more I was away from them, the more I realized that what they had done to me my entire life was wrong. I was mad mainly because they had not told me about the plan, but once I was settled in India, I started to get mad about the plan existing to begin with. The fact that they did not care if I was gonna be happy or not, and instead just cared about marrying me off and not having to deal with me anymore. I was smart and had the potential to go away to college in another country. To them though, I was just a girl who was meant to marry and have babies as soon as possible before I got too old. I needed a job and didn't know about how just crowded India was and how badly people needed jobs. I was starting to realize that it might not work out for me, but I ended up getting a job at a stall selling food. The fact that I knew how to speak English was a big plus, because I could better get the attention of tourists who we knew would have money. The stall was run by this older woman who really took me under her wing once she learned that I had no family anymore, and she brought me to her place for holidays and became almost like a second mother to me. I was saving a lot of my money, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was gonna do with it. I never learned how to manage money back home, and once again I was getting a lesson from this woman about saving and how to invest. After 3 years, I decided to buy a food stall of my own after seeing that most of these places sold the same type of food. I decided to make a stall selling food from my country to appeal to both tourists and locals that might be interested. It all came from the woman telling me that she liked my cooking, and then the idea just grew into a business. I was scared about it failing at first, but it actually started to get very popular and I was making enough money to stay in business and have a place to live. To make things even better though, I had met a man on my own terms and felt what it was like to fall in love. Once I knew what it felt like, I started to cry because if I had stayed, I would have never known this wonderful feeling. I might not have had the huge marriage that my parents wanted, but I did get married and it being for love was worth all of it. I was happier being fairly poor and living in India than staying in Afghanistan and ending up with more money and a better lifestyle, but miserable in my marriage. I have no clue what happened to my parents or to Ali. I don't know if they ever missed me or just did the thing of pretending that I didn't exist to keep their own image looking better. I never thought I would be successful or end up selling food on the streets of India. It was not the plan I would have wanted, but way better than the plan that could have happened. I'm only writing about all of this now because I found out that I'm pregnant with a girl and I'm thinking about how I will treat her, how I won't pressure her into an arranged marriage and will tell her about how good and important love is. I know that arranged marriage happens on this side of the world a lot and there's a lot of controversy about it. I don't want to say that it's never a good thing because I cannot speak for anybody else. I just know that I'm happy with my life right now and I doubt I would have been if I stayed with my toxic family and went along with what they wanted for my life. And by the way, Ripe Stars, if anyone in the comments can tell me that there's anything positive about arranged marriage, then please let me know in the comments because I'm really curious. Honestly, no offense to anyone, but I just don't see anything positive about that. Especially if it goes against the will of someone involved, like OP in this case. The next one is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize to my parents' poly partner? My 16 female parents, 36 each, became poly 4 years ago. They came to me and explained what it meant to be poly, and they've been dating the same person, Madison, 27 female, for the past 3 years, and she moved in with us 2 years ago. She's overall an okayish person, but she's very much into being some kind of cool mom, which she will never be for me. My parents' relationship with Madison is very serious. Both of my families know her, and while not everyone accepts her as a real part of their marriage, they are okay with her too. For me, she's more like a roommate my parents love rather than a parent figure or someone I have to listen to. My dad is okay with her trying to discipline me, but my mom is not. And well, 2 days ago, my boyfriend walked me home and I invited him to have a piece of cake since my mom's birthday was the day before and he could not come. He said yes and we went inside and that's honestly everything we did. Madison came in an hour later and we were still in the kitchen eating and watching TikToks together. I had my head on his shoulder and we were just chilling. She saw us and began to act very weird. She said hi and drank a glass of water, but after 10 minutes she just stood there pretending to watch her phone. But it was pretty obvious she was watching us. My boyfriend felt uncomfortable and said his goodbyes. When Madison and I were left alone, she approached me, saying it was not okay for me to be alone with a boy at 16 and that she would appreciate it if I didn't do it again. I was honestly shocked. My parents know my boyfriend pretty well, and more than that, they know me, and I would never betray their trust by doing something I'm not allowed to do yet just because I was alone. She wanted to keep talking, but I cut her off and said that she had no right to try to give me the talk, and she wasn't my parent in any form to try to parent me or give me unsolicited advice. I said she better not, and any concern she had, she could talk to my real parents, and if they see fit, they will talk to me. But just because she was dating them both did not make her mummy too, and I went to my room. This morning, while my dad drove me to school, he said Madison talked to both of them, and my mom decided that she overstepped, but that he agreed with her, and he would appreciate a heads up when my boyfriend and I are alone. He said that if it was okay with me, I could apologize, but I said I didn't feel like it, and he said he was disappointed. Update to the story. So I'm answering everyone right now and letting them know about the update. As I said, I did notice yesterday that my post was down, but I was honestly so tired that I fell asleep as soon as I could. So per my last update around 5 PM, my mom got home and 30 or so minutes later, I asked my dad and her if we could talk. Madison was at the gym, so we just sat on the couch and I was honest. I told my mom what my dad had said on the morning ride, and I confessed to my dad that it was unfair that just because Madison thought it was improper of us, my boyfriend and I, to be alone in the house, he suddenly changes the game. I've always been completely honest with them and I reminded them, so I said that as soon as we got home, I sent them a text telling them that I was already here and that my boyfriend was over, and he said nothing then. I also told them that I didn't feel comfortable with Madison living here and that maybe I never was, but I was too young to understand what it really meant to have poly parents. While I don't really care about their romantic life, ever since Madison snitched on me, it had made me feel like walking on eggshells in my own house. My dad saying that he was disappointed felt like Madison matters more than me in the house. I've always been a loner, always. I spend time with my parents, yes, but I love to be alone in my room, in the kitchen, in the living room, just doing my own stuff. I've never had to hide for anything, but Madison proved that whatever she doesn't like or she thinks I shouldn't be doing, she will spy and tell, and it wasn't fair. Because while Madison is nothing to me and her opinion does not matter, I've proven to them that I can be trusted and that I don't do things like that behind their back. While saying that, my voice cracked and my dad came to my side and hugged me, saying that he was so sorry and that I was right. He apologized again for the way he acted in the car and that he should have never said that he was disappointed, because he wasn't. He said he couldn't have asked for a better kid and that he felt so bad for hurting me to the point that I had to talk to them alone. He hugged me and my mom just looked at him and said that they had to talk to Madison alone because she has said countless times that she doesn't appreciate her giving advice or thinking that she was some kind of responsibility over me. She also said that I never ever have to walk on eggshells here because this is my house and will forever be my house, and if I did not act shamefully then I don't have to be ashamed, and then she gave me a kiss on the forehead. She asked to call my boyfriend so they could apologize to him too, and gave us some money to go to Starbucks for a few hours, and so we did. I honestly don't know everything that happened between them and Madison, but my dad said that he was tired of having to please two women in his life and that whatever right he did for mom was wrong for Madison and vice versa, and that for a while he has wanted to break off that relationship but was not sure if my mom wanted to, because despite not agreeing on parenting choices, my mom loved her a lot and it showed. My mom said she was done too and they'll be attending couple counseling and see where it gets them. They also gave Madison 2 weeks to move out, but she was already packing when I got home and she went to stay with her parents. She glared at me once and apart from that, did not even look at me again. So I guess there is that. That's the update. My parents broke up with Madison and I got to talk to them. It's really weird not having her around, but I really like it. Also, my mom read the post and some of the responses. My dad decided not to, since everything was settled. After reading the post, my mom also apologized for bringing Madison in with me so young, and while I said I did not really mind, she said sorry. So thanks everyone for your support. And the next one is a malicious compliance fence story. So this story does not actually involve me, but my father. Background: my parents bought a property on the beach because it's their happy place and they didn't want to stay at hotels anymore. The place is an older property that needed a lot of love, so we've been renovating it for a good year in our spare time. Our neighbor is an older lady who runs the small motel next door. From the very beginning, she's been quite an annoyance, constantly doing and saying manipulative things as favors to make us feel like we owe her something, which usually ends in her being allowed to use parts of our property. Fun fact, an inspector that was checking on the renovations once saw her coming towards him and quipped, "Here comes trouble." So the main story involves the side of our property that we share with her. There is a fence that she built and a small alleyway between the fence and our house, which is ours, and has a hose and shower area for when you come back from the beach and want to get the sand off of you. As part of the renovations, my dad had some small aluminum panels put in our side of the fence so that the users of the shower could have privacy. The panels are not visible from the neighbor's property and are completely unobtrusive. Neighbor sees them while passing by and freaks out. Frantically calls and texts my dad, begging for a callback and saying it's an emergency. My dad makes time to call, assuming the hose might have broken or something, but nope, just a neighbor throwing a hissy fit over the panels. "Take them down," she insists. My dad is a very busy man and has already had enough of my neighbor's constant annoyances. Her claiming an emergency just for these panels finally made him snap. So now the malicious compliance. My dad, the amicable man he is, agrees to take the panels down. As part of the renovations, he also has a gate put in front of that small alleyway area. This is not good for my neighbor because she made an agreement with my father to use our hose so that her guests could rinse themselves off when coming back from the beach. This precious hose is now behind a locked gate, the key for which my neighbor will not be seeing. On top of that, my father put a chain in front of the parking area of our house, which she was using as extra space for her guests and where our trash cans are kept. Trash cans which said neighbor was using to throw away her extra trash. Now our neighbor will have to pay extra for a better water plan for her motel, something she was well aware of and trying to avoid, as she had previously told my dad about the numbers for water plans on her property versus ours. And possibly pay for extra trash cans for her trash. My dad is a very patient man and very hard to get angry, but once you do, you're gonna regret it. Edit, I see some people mentioning it in the comments, so I feel like I should clarify. The hose was being fed through the fence, so her guests were on her property when they were using it. It's better safe than sorry though, in case of liability. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. My daughter and I were recently on vacation. We spent the day in an area that's known to have a lot of rich and famous people, and towards the end of the day, we saw one of my daughter's favorite celebrities, we will call her A, walking out of a store. My daughter ran to the store, but when she got near A, she was stopped by A's security. They said that A is there with her daughter for her daughter's birthday and wants to focus on her daughter. My daughter was very upset because she's been a fan of A for a very long time, so she tried again for a picture but was turned away. My daughter was crushed, so later that night I made a post talking about my experience with A. How she could not let anyone go near her and her daughter, and the fact that her security was rude and her not being willing to stop for a couple of seconds for a picture. I understand it's her daughter's birthday, but a minute interaction with a fan is not gonna ruin her day, and if it does, that girl needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her. The post ended up getting a lot of attention, and a lot of people actually said my daughter and I were being entitled for expecting A to interrupt her daughter's birthday for everyone that wants a picture. Well, my husband also saw the post and said he couldn't believe that I would bash her for trying to spend the day with her daughter. I'm not trying to bash her for spending the day with her daughter, but she would not be where she is without her fans, so I think she at least owes it to them to take a picture. And yeah, ripe stars, I think some people forget that celebrities also have something called privacy, or at least they have a right to privacy, and they are people just like we are, except probably that they have more money. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Someone on Reddit said, "You're the a-hole." Even though it could have been a simple 1-minute interaction, a lot of people forget that celebrities are also people. It's insane that you believe your daughter was owed a picture just because they would not be where they are without their fans. Celebrities deserve some time for themselves and their families too. A was respectful enough to decline. I'm sure she apologized to your daughter too, but you and your daughter also need to learn to respect others, including famous people. Comment number 2, you're the a-hole, and you even said it yourself. That girl needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her, except applied to your daughter and yourself. Can you imagine how many times A's family has been interrupted by people that, on her daughter's birthday, she wanted it not to happen? Just because someone is a celebrity and you like them a lot, it doesn't give you the right to any of their time or attention. Just find an appropriate time for it, and if they say, "No, sorry, not right now," accept it and move on. Comment number 3, you're the a-hole. The celebrity is entitled to her private life too. I'm sure her daughter is sick of having to share her mother with the world and would like to have one normal day with her. You should respect that. The next one is a petty revenge story. A few years ago, my girlfriend and I used to live in a small building with only a handful of apartments and a tiny garden we shared with the rest of the residents. My neighbor was this guy everyone hated, constantly blaring music, leaving trash in front of his door, loud drunken grill parties all weekend, every weekend, and ignoring all requests to keep it down. Of course, citing his rights to be loud. You of course know the one I'm talking about. So our window had a direct view to the garden, where he hosted said grill parties, despite numerous requests to let other people use the space too. And one day I noticed he had similar sound system to ours. It required no authentication for a Bluetooth connection, so I wrote a program that would connect to his speakers the moment he turned them on, and played the same 15 seconds of adult gay video on repeat. He kept taking the speakers to the service, which obviously did not help, so he bought a newer set. His new sound system could connect to Wi-Fi. Since he made the mistake of loudly announcing his Wi-Fi password to his guests regularly, I connected to it, realized he never changed the default router password, and wrote another program that connected automatically and kept rotating his admin password. I even set up my old laptop to run this program continuously. It also kept streaming the previously mentioned adult videos to his TV at random intervals and printed a luscious cucumber pic whenever his printer came online, and either abruptly changed the volume of his speakers every 47 minutes or kept subtly increasing and decreasing it through several hours. I saw people from our ISP at his apartment several times trying to fix his network to no avail. The moment they reset his Wi-Fi, my program was already there, changing the admin password. After about 3 months of this, they gave him a new router with a new password, which he never changed, and promptly announced to his friends the following weekend. So instead of his usual blaring music, we listened to him yell and smash kitchenware the last few weeks before he finally moved out. It was like music to our ears nonetheless. Edit. I'm getting the feeling the technical aspects of this might sound unfeasible to some. Let me clarify, I had his default Wi-Fi password that he never changed. Same for his router, we had the same ISP, obviously I knew the default password and which IP address it was running on. He gave me unfettered access to his whole home network with zero hacking involved. At least 70% of the mentioned programs were just pre-recorded macros, so all I needed was some free time, nowhere near as impressive as it sounds at first. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much, and I will see you again tomorrow.